This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in.
Welcome to this month's episode of yet another journey through the looking glass. I'm your co-host, Scott Criscuolo. I hope everyone is enjoying their January, regardless of what side of the globe you're on. You could be on my side of the globe, where it's actually not that cold. I think right now, it's evening here in Connecticut, so it's 35 degrees. So it's not brutal. But on the other side of the globe, it's 135 degrees. No, I don't know how hot that is. But anyway, let's just jump right in. Let's bring in the man, the myth. I love being on a show with this guy because he's awesome. The Thunder from Down Under. Happy New Year, Dave Hall.
Happy New Year, Scott Criscuolo. It's so good to be with you once again. It is a lovely summer day down here. By American temperatures, we're at about 82, 83 degrees. It's mid to late 20s Celsius. So just a lovely warm day.
You and your lovely warm days. But you know what makes me mad is that when my summer comes and it's like 99 here, it's going to be like 50 for your winter. You don't get 11 degrees like I got to deal with. So
no, not where I live. Not where I live. So.
Anyway, Happy New Year, Dave. It's always a journey and a pleasure to be with you every month. I love it. I hope everyone has enjoyed the show. We're on episode. Let me do my math. I think this is 15 now. I think we're on episode 15, and what I've enjoyed about the show, and I've gotten a lot of comments from people, is that you and I the topics are so very, very different. Every month we do a big spin, and I totally give you credit for it. Believe me, I take no credit. I just yap and edit. You are the mastermind. I give you all the credit. I just babble and edit. That's all I do. You are the man. But thank you, everyone. It's been a great year for the PTB Wrestling Network. We keep hammering out the downloads. Everybody has been so supportive. We're in the top. Usually in Apple podcast downloads, we're in at least the top 70 in America every year. And I think in Australia, sometimes we're in the top like 60. So that's all Dave's friends. But that is not me. That's all of you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we are in another year, The Place to Be podcast officially started, of course, in 2011. The PTB Wrestling Network, where we really grow our shows, really started in 2014. But it has been a great 12-year journey, and it's going to continue because of all of you. As long as you're all listening to this wonderful content and all of us knuckleheads, it means the world to us. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you and your partner who's not a part of this podcast, but you and JT, because you said you launched the Place to Be podcast back in 2011. And for some of us, we were on pretty early. I mean, I remember back in the days commenting on Facebook and on the forums, and the comments were read on the show. And I think I started having comments that were on there from around about the WrestleMania 3 episode. So
yes,
early days. It's been a great journey, but it's good to be actually able to join you and do our thing now as well. So that's I thank you and your partner for setting this universe alight.
That means thank you, Dave. That means the world to us. You are an OG, and that's why we've always valued you, JR and I. You're the one that helped us get started in terms of the support, in the public with social media, with our Facebook groups, and eventually we have the Twitter. The Twitter page, the Twitter account, and just getting out there. And it's guys like you that were so good to us in the beginning when we had like 3 listeners. You were one of them. And I will never forget it. Now that we're doing an anniversary episode, we'll get to our topic. Don't worry, it's January, so we're going to talk about Sold Out. So I do that to Dave every this is our second January, and I always say we're going to rebook Sold Out. So is I remember when JR and I think it was episode 2 of the Place to Be podcast. Episode 2, we did a Major League Baseball postseason. We did a postseason recap. And him and I recorded on a Saturday night, and we recorded for like 3.5 hours. And from those very rough early episodes, we grew and became what we are now. So, again, we thank you for your patience in getting through those first probably 50 episodes that were probably a little rough, and we've advanced technologically and such. Though it means the world to us. Again, thank you. All right, enough yammering about that. Thank you again, and we love having you here. And that's why we always give you great content. We're not gonna get lazy. We have great content every week, and we're glad that you're here. Brand new episode this month. We're going to have a fun 2023 here on this show because Dave and I are going to come up with some fun topics we haven't dived into yet. I like February's. You're gonna love this episode, but you will love. Dave and I are already kind of chatting about what February's episode is going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. For those that are new to the channel, welcome. For those that are new to the show, again, welcome. These are not episodic in the sense that this is not chronological. So if you put this episode on first, you don't have to turn it off. This isn't part 15 of a series. All of these episodes are standalones. So please stay, enjoy the show, and then go back to the archive, either on your podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, or on placetobe.podbean.com, and go back to the all the other episodes in the archive of Through the Looking Glass, and you'll have a lot of fun. They're great. Dave and I have had a blast. So, all right, it's January. All kidding aside, we're not doing sold out. We are going to do it one point, Dave. I'm going to make you. We are going to do a sold out episode at some point.
I think we can manage that. It needs a lot of rebooking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That'd be like a 4-hour episode. But we all know it's January. I think you kind of have a feeling what we're going to talk about. Dave, why don't you set the stage for us?
Well, like you said, it's January, and as has become a little bit of the tradition with this show, when we hit the big four, we like to sort of do a bit of focus on the big four. So once again, it's Royal Rumble season, and we're going to do a Royal Rumble themed episode. If you missed last year's one, as we said, don't stop listening now. But at the end of the episode, go back. You can listen to last year's Royal Rumble, and obviously it would be timely. We did a little bit of a rebooking of winners. We looked at some people who we thought should have won some Royal Rumbles we did that last year, and that was a really good episode. We really had a blast doing that. And so if you are new to the show, go back and listen to that one before the Royal Rumble happens in the next couple of weeks, because you're going to want to, it's always good fun. But today we're looking at things from a different point of view. We've got two parts to today's episode, and the first part is, well, we were thinking, that the Royal Rumble has become such a big event, and it really is the catalyst for who is essentially the next major challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship, or the Universal, or the Combined, or whatever time period we're in. It's there. But Scott and I were chatting a while back, and we were wondering, well, the Rumble started in 88. We know that it was a TV special in 1988, and then pay-per-view in 89. But what if the Royal Rumble had started earlier than 1988? What if the Royal Rumble had been a house show event that was used, maybe a Madison Square Garden event that was used to build the next challenger for the title, or build someone into the company? So we're going to really delve back into the history banks. We're going to turn the time machine back big time today, because we're going to look at who might have won Royal Rumbles and how might that have looked if Royal Rumbles had been around from, say, 1977, around the time Bob Backlund was about to become champion. So we're really going to have some fun tonight, going back well before a lot of us are. I'm going to go back like 1977. I was only January 1977. I would have been 6 months old. So I was really young back then.
Yes, January 77. I was 3. I would have been 4 in 6 months. So I was 3 years old in January of 77. But yeah, I think this is a lot of fun, because the fun thing I'm really looking forward to doing with this part of our show tonight. We got a second part that I think you guys will all like too. But this first part is fun because the champion, the world title reigns were so long. I mean, we could have conceivably gone back to like Bruno. Maybe not Bruno's first, because there weren't a ton of games, but we figured, starting with maybe when Bruno was champion at the beginning of 77, all the way to the Rumble. I thought, because we're going to have long runs for Backlund and, of course, long runs for Hogan. you know, we think that finding challengers for those years, I think would be absolutely amazing. So, I'm excited to do this. I'm excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun, kind of picking guys from that, particularly from the early '80s, because there are a lot of awesome heels in the WWF in the early '80s, and I've documented them. We both have on various episode topics that I feel get forgotten because Backlund held the belt for so long, and then of course Sheiky Baby held it for a month, and then of course Hogan. So I think it's fun that we're going to think about a lot of these heels that maybe got forgotten because they just kind of got, they won a cheap count out match to lead to a cage, and et cetera, et cetera. So.
And that's the thing, when you go back and look at the archives, you often see that a very common event back in the late 70s and early 80s was a battle royal to determine the challenger for either the world title match that night or at the next event. So it's not out of the question to have thought, oh, this could have been something that could have become a precedent back in the day. It's not out of the ordinary for this is how a challenger was chosen. And so we've sort of gone, I think we've sort of put the setting of this will probably have happened at Madison Square Garden, and we're going to keep the time period into January so that it sort of fits the Rumble theme. But we're looking at trying to just determine who might have benefited from a Rumble win, from allowing the prestige, the momentum that gets gathered by winning a Rumble to be seen back in the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so it's going to be a lot of fun that we can, what would be a good challenger, and, what's the best month. I think we're going to play it safe and stick with January for the month of it, because it's just, we're OCD like that. And then, maybe look ahead to, now it doesn't necessarily have to be March. We could move it ahead to whenever, but I think we're going to enjoy this. I think we're going to really emphasize and highlight guys that at the time that maybe newer fans, even as new as the, maybe the late 80s, thought were, total jobber scrubs. But, in the early 80s were, and I have one heel totally in my head at the moment that would have been an awesome Royal Rumble winner in the early 80s, and we'll get to him in a minute. But was a much better worker and a much more high-profile heel than was, if you remember him, in the later 80s during the pay-per-view era. So, Dave, let's begin. Let's pull the ripcord. What do we got?
Yeah, well, let's like I said, let's go all the way back. We're going to go chronologically. We're going to start all the way back in 77. 1977, January 77, the world champion at the time was Bruno Sammartino, closing in at the end of that championship reign. But something I noticed when I looked at the roster and the competitors at the time, his successor, the superstar Billy Graham, was not in the company yet. So he's ruled out, in my opinion, as a Rumble winner. So who in 1977 would benefit, would be someone who could come out as a Rumble winner and a challenger for Bruno Sammartino. So Scott, I'm going to let you take the first one here and give me your thoughts on a 77 winner and how that might have gone down.
I think that's crazy that superstar Billy Graham was not in the company, and then 4 months later. Think about this for a minute before, I don't mean to tangent. Think about this, Dave. Brock Lesnar won the WWF Championship at SummerSlam 02 4 months after debuting. All right? Right? April, May, June, July. Or about 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Pretty much, that's exactly what superstar Billy Graham did. He debuted probably in late January, early February of 77, and in April, he's world champion. Fathom that.
And back then, that was very unusual. That was very out of the ordinary to bring someone in and have them take the top title so quickly.
Right. Crazy. I mean, I know that I know that Bruno was kind of done, so it makes sense, to get someone in there, and he was a good heel, and kind of a good kudos to Vince Senior to think outside the box for a guy that you wouldn't think about as a champion, but he was a great heel. So, all right, who would be a good? I had a couple in my head. I got to be honest. I had Superstar Billy Graham in my head because that was a gimme, but since he doesn't count, I'm going to take my number 2 choice, and I'm going to go with. Let's see. I was thinking Nikolai Volkov because I think he was, if I remember correctly, he was in the company in 77 as a top flight heel with, I think Freddie Blassie was his manager.
Yeah.
So he could have been a good guy because he was not treated like the Freddie, the Nikolai Volkov everybody else thinks.
Let me throw this one out at you. When I looked at the roster, when I looked at who was competing in the company in 1977, one name really jumped out at me as someone who I think would have been a sensational Rumble winner. Someone who would clearly, it would have benefited to use him as a challenger to Bruno especially. And I'm sure he had a shot, but I don't remember hearing much about him getting a title shot, but someone whose career was more prominent for what he did in Japan and had his reputation around the wrestling world, and that's Bruiser Brody. I saw Bruiser Brody's name in there, and I went, my goodness, he would have made a brilliant Rumble winner.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that choice a lot. I'm actually just looking. I'm on the historyofWWE.com, and New Year's Day, how about this, Dave? New Year's Day, 1977, Bruno and Nikolai were in the main event for the world title at the Spectrum. So I like our choices. How about a guy like, I'm seeing a guy who's a heel, and he's around in most of early 77. I think he'd be a great guy for Bruno. Bruiser Brody.
That's what I just said.
I'm just kidding. I knew that. Should make sure you're paying attention. No, I know that. But Brody, April Fool. No, just kidding. I like Brody. I'm gonna go with Brody. I like your choice. I'm gonna go with Brody because I think there'd be bloody matches.
Yeah.
And I think they'd be bloody matches, and they'd be a lot of fun, very violent, and I think I like your choice. I think I'm going to go with Brody. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write that. I'm opening up a doc here because I want to see these. This is my OCD coming out again. I'm going to put this down.
And I see, bro, like I see him coming in, tossing, like he could come in, there'd be a bunch of people in there. He starts tossing everyone out left and right and almost into that early, that monster, that Diesel sort of push where he's like the last one left. And then every guy that comes in, he's just sending them out just as quick. Maybe eliminating someone like an Ivan Putski, who at the time would have been, he could actually win. Ivan Putski in 77 was probably at the height of his ability in the company. And I think, Brody last eliminating Ivan Putski would really cement him as a legitimate challenger to Bruno.
I agree. So we have picked this. So we think that a great 1977 Royal Rumble winner would be Bruiser Brody. And I think him and we could have some builds. He takes out some other heels or some other baby faces. And then maybe April or May, kind of like a WrestleMania, we get a big match in, at Madison Square Garden in April or May. And I think we get that shot. So, all right.
And you could actually picture post like he would almost have had put such a beating on Bruno. Bruno holds the belt, but that sets up Bruno ready to be beaten by superstar Billy Graham. And then Brody can walk around afterwards going, well, you lost because of what I did.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. 1978. I think this is a gimme. We might as well just, in our alternate universe, we might as well just stay in reality. At the start of the year, superstar Billy Graham is your world champion. So we might as well just do it because it's the way it was laid out. I think it's safe to say we would have Bob Backlund win the Royal Rumble and have the title shot and then win the title. So I think that's a gimme. I don't know. Do you have any? Is there any others that may pop out at you?
The only other name that popped out of me as a potential winner, if you didn't want to go the easy route of Bob Backlund, might have been Dusty Rhodes. Dusty was in the company at the time. He was getting shots at superstar Billy Graham. He was sort of that last challenger before Backlund took the belt. So yeah, but I think the gimme, I think it's Backlund because you probably have superstar Billy Graham defend the title against Dusty on the same event. Backlund wins the Rumble, and he's the challenger next month, ready to take over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I like that too. All right, the final Royal Rumble of the 1970s. Again, so now in this time, even in our alternate world, Bob Backlund is WWF champion. Who would win? The champions are not going to change. That part we're not going to change. What we're doing here is we're just picking Rumble winners if a Rumble existed. So. New Year's Day, 1979, your champion is Bob Backlund. So who would be a good heel? Let's see. I have one on my head, but I want to save him for 1980 because he'd be an awesome heel in 1980, an awesome winner in 1980. So I'm not going to use him now. What do you think of? Well, he's managed by the Grand Wizard. I had him written down here as one of my choices. He's over as a heel. How about, ready for this? I have two here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you think of both? Number one, the Hammer, Greg Valentine. Managed by, he's moving up the ranks. He's respected as a heel. He's managed by the Wizard. And number two, how about this? 21 years before his grandson won a Royal Rumble, managed by Freddie Blassie, High Chief Peter Maivia wins the Royal Rumble.
Absolutely. That's the name that I had pegged. That's the name that's written on my list here. I looked at that list and I thought, High Chief Peter Maivia, that really sort of brings the full circle. He was strongly pushed throughout sort of December 78 and January 79. You look at television tapings, you look at the various cards around the circuit in January 79. He was getting a very strong push, and even that concept, the High Chief. I mean, it's a royal. I really think they could play up post the match, like you said, the manager could put it out there. He's the only person who should be winning it because he's royalty. He's the High Chief, and Peter Maivia at that time, it would have been a real good way to get him a push into a world title match, and like you said, something that they could have harked back on in the days of The Rock. The Rock being able to look back and go, my grandfather won it, and so did I.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Unfortunately, I don't know if there would have been any room in the mid to late 80s for Rocky Johnson to win a Rumble because number one, he was prolifically a tag wrestler. Number two, he's another casualty of the long Hulk Hogan world title run. Another babyface that would have got no shot. So, all right. So we've established that the 1979 Royal Rumble winner would have been High Chief Peter Maivia, who was a heel. He was managed by Freddie Blassie. He'd have been perfect. We enter into the 1980s. And I have an awesome guy to win the 1980 Royal Rumble. I love this because it branches into two feuds.
Oh, I'm wondering if you've done the exact same thing that I've done. I'm interested.
I think we did. I think we did. So. My 1980 Royal Rumble winner is Larry Legend himself, Larry Zbyszko. Zbyszko wins the Royal Rumble. Mouths off to Bruno, because I think he had already turned on Bruno at this point. And if he hadn't, he was about. It
was around this. Well, he was about to. Yeah, the turn happened in the tapings in January. So
January. Right after the Royal Rumble, you could do it before or after, even if you wanted to do it early February. And you he wins the Royal Rumble. He wants his shot at Bob Backlund. And he's like, you know what? I don't need this old grizzled guinea bastard, getting in my way because he's jealous of me. He's never going to get a title shot again. He's only, he's in the 70s. I am the 80s. And then the heel turn, then the turn on Bruno happens. And then come April or May, we get the big titles match at Madison Square Garden. Bob Backlund versus Larry Zbyszko for the WWF title. And Larry's cheating, eye poking, and all that kind of stuff. And Bruno comes out, costs Larry the match. Bob retains the title, and that sets up the cage match between Larry and Bruno in August at Shea Stadium. Now, do you think? Now, Dave, feel free to tweak the timeline on that, because if you want to have,
I like your timeline, but I've got a slightly different variation for you,
okay.
And then maybe we can determine which one whose we like better, or maybe our listeners can determine, because
okay,
I had a similar approach but a different result. I had Bruno win. I had Bruno win the Rumble, last eliminating Larry Zbyszko.
Oh.
And my premise being that Larry then, that becomes the catalyst for the heel turn. And when Larry turns on Bruno in turn goes, I'm forfeiting the title shot. I don't want to face Bob. I want Larry. And that just becomes the straight out catalyst for, I just see Bruno and Larry as the last two, completely technical. Bruno overpowers him, and maybe even semi-easily eliminates Larry. Larry's not happy, but Bruno sort of does the handshake, but it then leads into the shadow. He's the mentor. Larry feeling like he was hard done by, that Bruno maybe should have stood aside so that Larry could have had a title shot. And then you just go straight into what they did with the chair shot and the storyline and build from there.
But also that.
And the other reason I went with Bruno is because I looked at what we had and I thought we're running into this long era of Backlund and Hogan winners. There's going to be a lot of heels, but Bruno winning would have made sense because the McMahons would have wanted Bruno to win at some point because he was the living legend. And Bruno and Bob, the other thing you can do is you could do similar to what you said. Bruno and Bob do have their match because they did have a couple of 60-minute draw matches. I don't know what year, but during Backlund's reign, I believe they had a couple of matches. And then you could have Larry cheat Bruno out of the match and the seamless sort of thing that you said. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be honest. I like yours better. I like yours better. So I'm going to change it on my list. But folks, let us know. Go to our Place to Be Facebook page where we talk about all sorts of things. Who do you like? Do you like my original idea of Larry winning the Rumble in 1980, or do you like Dave's idea of Bruno winning the Rumble? Then Larry turns heel. Bruno goes, you know what, Bob? You and I would have one of the greatest matches ever, but I got business I got to take care of. So I'm going to forfeit my title shot for now. And, they can have a number one contender and Bruno and then Bob can face somebody else. And then we have Bruno. And what's funny is at the actual showdown at Shea, Dave, in August of 80, Bob doesn't even defend the title. Him and Pedro win the tag titles.
Have the tag title match. That's right.
Oh, wow. I just got a great one. Oh my God. And he was a heel. Oh my God. I got another one. You're going to laugh your ass off. I got another one to win the Rumble in 1980. Mm-hmm. A heel Hulk Hogan.
I thought of that. I did think of that one and I went, oh, no, I like the Bruno idea better.
I do. Yeah. What I would have done is, what we would have done is Bruno could have put up, like they could have done either another match and maybe Hogan. See, but Hogan then wrestled Andre. So, which means, well, here's the problem. I mean, this is the bitchy part. Let's go to 1981, and I was torn on this one because 81 is a great year. This is a guy, I was going to give this guy the title shot, but I'm kind of torn. I'm not sure what to do here because I got a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
My original choice, but he really doesn't step up as an epic heel for another couple of years. He hadn't even won the Intercontinental title yet. I originally was going to have the Magnificent Morocco win the Rumble in 81, but he hadn't really, because he hadn't even beaten Bruno yet. He hadn't even beaten Pedro yet for the IC title.
Yeah.
So he really hadn't earned that slot yet. Here's my problem. Unless you do. Now, let's take into account, Dave, that fans at the time, and we can, I think we need to keep this up because this could end up being a problem. Let's keep into account that fans in the 80s, early 80s, 70s didn't care about draws and all, and draws and countouts and DQs. Like, they didn't get pissed off at that like we do now.
That's right.
So I have a 1981 Royal Rumble winner, and his name is Andre the Giant.
Ooh.
And you have Andre and Backlund in a huge mega match at Madison Square Garden, and they wrestle to a draw.
Oh. That's an awesome potential win. Or you could even have, that could be where you have Andre and Bob wrestling their match, and whoever the heel is that's going to take on Andre, or any heel, you could have a couple of heels come out and just have the double DQ, have the double disqualification, so that the next month, the match the next month would actually be the tag encounter.
Exactly.
Andre and Backlund team up. That's a fantastic idea.
Was 81, Dave, the year that Andre feuded with Kamala with the whole broken leg, the broken ankle?
Killer Khan, wasn't it?
Killer Khan. Killer Khan did the ankle break. What was remember back the old beginning of the history of the best of the WWF tapes, like all the old school Coliseum videos? They have that epic shot of Andre slamming Kamala in the cage.
Yeah, Kamala was in it. I can't remember if it was 81 or 82. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I remember that. Because for those of you that are a little, well, I guess younger fans, if you're watching the tapes, there's a when they do that collage of clips at the beginning. One of the clips is Andre slamming Kamala in a cage. I think was Maple Leaf Gardens. And I'm thinking, because that was a great feud, but I'm pretty sure the Killer Khan broken ankle thing was 81. So
but I think it was later in 81, much later in the year.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, I love that Andre idea, though. I think I actually think it probably is a better outcome than what I had. I actually threw out the idea. I had two potential options. I didn't think of Andre. I didn't go down that line, especially as I had Bruno win the year before.
Right.
And my two options were firstly throw out that, because he was still in the company and he was receiving title shots around this time. This is where a heel Hulk Hogan victory came into my head, because this was around the time he sort of finished with Andre, and it wasn't long after this that he was recruited to go to Hollywood to film Rocky III. So. I saw a heel Hulk Hogan winning there, or Sergeant Slaughter in his prime as a heel was that he really was coming to prominence in early 81. And if you look around that sort of February, March time period, both Hogan and Slaughter did begin were receiving shots against Backlund. I felt either of those two could go, but then when you said Andre, I thought, I like that. I like that much better.
I just think it'd be cool. I mean, Andre, it'd be a good, and Andre, Andre, he never cared about belts or any of that kind of crap. He just wanted to make his money and put on a great show for the fans. Oh, Andre never cared about being world champion. That was never his gig, mostly because Andre liked to travel. He was always upfront with Vince Sr. that don't bother putting belts on me. I don't need them, boss. I don't need titles, boss. I like traveling because I like making my Japan money and my Toronto money and all that. Let other guys have the titles. I'll come back. I'll make money for you. But I like my freedom to go where I want, and you're not going to want your world champion to be gone for 6 months. So, so that Andre, even in an alternate universe, Andre wouldn't care that he didn't win. But you want to keep the whole undefeated thing going. So, yeah, that's what I think. 1982. Oh my God, 1982. I got a cake one.
Yep.
Another great heel, and it does lead to what would be a pretty great match that ended up being a great match later in the year, but you can have this match earlier in the year, but they ended up having a great match in 1982, and I'll just move it up closer. Another guy managed by an awesome heel. My 1982 Royal Rumble winner is Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Snuka
I
wins the
thought of
Rumble. Snuka wins the Rumble, eliminates, and you could be creative, eliminates somebody and lands on the announce table. and the crowd and the referee and Captain Lou's looking, hey, his feet's not on the floor. Feet aren't on the floor. Or Albano can drop like it's some cheating scummy way, drops his shirt, like he takes off his shirt, his disgusting fat body's joggling all over the place, and Snuka's standing on his shirt going, his foot's on the floor. It's on my shirt. He's not on the floor. And the ref's like, his foot's not on the floor. And Snuka wins the Rumble, and we get the great Snuka Backlund feud in 1982. That's what I got. What do you think?
I like that. I like that one a lot. I had gone a different route. I sort of felt in 82 you were very much in a litany of just challenger of the month. There was Backlund, apart from probably even the Snuka series, it really seems to be just who's the next heel challenger, one after the other. And I thought, I had a look at who was around, and I thought, you know what? There was one name that jumped out at me as he was pretty recent to the WWF, was someone who would regularly receive title shots and would not be, I think, would be a good Rumble winner. But I think the benefit of winning the Rumble would be felt much later in his career when he became a color commentator, and that is Jesse the Body Ventura.
Okay.
I was just thinking to myself, imagine if Jesse had won so that when he was commentating, he could actually talk about a little bit more about what it takes to win and some of the strategy that he implemented to be a winner, and bring that extra element to his commentary as he did, as he was so great as he is. But you could just picture him. So you could just picture him going, Monsoon, when I was in the 82 Rumble, when I won the 82 Rumble, I made sure that every new person that came in, I was straight on them and straight, not giving them any chance to get momentum. Like, you could just see him talking about the strategy from experience.
Yep. That's awesome. I like that. He'd be deplorable to deal with. I think that would be awesome. I love that, Dave. I love that. And I think, and we know that we would get Backlund and Snuka go on the network or go on Peacock and go to the is it June 28th or is it December 28th? One of the MSG house shows in 82. I can't remember whether it was June or December. Has, of course, the epic Snuka Backlund cage match where Snuka first tried to jump off the top of the cage, and that time as a heel he missed. We all know what he would do in 83, which we'll get to in a minute.
It's the June 28 MSG.
June.
I'm just looking at historyofwwe.com right now.
Okay. So June 28th, 82, I'm pretty sure that house show's on Peacock. Well, Peacock for us, the network for you. I'm pretty sure that house show's on there. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. The Snuka Backlund match is pretty awesome. There was one other guy. Can I go back one? I want to backtrack.
Yep.
I have one heel we don't have to add it to the list, but there's one heel that I think would have been awesome because he did feud with Backlund in '81, and that's Stan the Lariat Hansen. He'd be a good backup Rumble winner.
Again, very, very much in the same mold as Bruiser Brody, like the history, the what he brings, and the traveling around. You could see that same benefit.
Right, I like that idea. Yep. So I had that out there too. All right, 1983. This was the year because he's been an awesome heel for the previous 2 years. This is where I have, and I know it's, oh my God, you have so many heels. Well, it's what happens when you have a babyface champion. This is where I have Magnificent Morocco win the Rumble. He's the IC champ. He could sit there with his obnoxious promos saying, "I'm going to be the first real double." Winning half a tag title. He could be like, winning half a tag title doesn't count, Bob Backlund. I will be the first to hold both singles championships at once in the WWF. I will be the Intercontinental Champion and the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion, which means I will be the greatest of all time. I'm not going to win half a tag belt and be half a champion like you. And I think the promos would be hysterical with him as the winner.
I like that. I really like that. I like that. That is a really good. That's a really good option. I think what you've said there would be a brilliant way to do it. That Morocco becomes, as IC champ, becomes the first Intercontinental champ to win, and like you said, then the promos become, I'm coming for that. I'm gonna win both, and then after I do that, then I'll go and win the tag title as well, and I'll hold all 3 belts at the same time. He could look ahead and do all 3. So no, I think that's a great option. I found 83 a struggle outside of the Morocco option, but there was a name that sort of jumped out at me. I didn't realize he was back in the company at this point, and
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
I put it in only as a callback to the fact that he lost previously, and that is superstar Billy Graham.
Correct. When he came back with that goofy kung fu gimmick. Yes.
I know, but I thought that what better way to sort of get a rematch against the man who beat him than to win the Rumble. And, you beat me. You won in 78 and beat me. I'm here now. I've won in 83 and I'm going to get my title back. Right. That was the only other option I could see as that would really have a good storyline element to it.
Yep. I think that's awesome. I love that. Look, I love that idea too. But there's something about Morocco in terms of the promos I think would be great because he'd be so obnoxious and he was such an asshole. And you had Captain Lou, who was, 81, 82, 83 was his prime heel asshole managerness. I think he'd be amazing. And you get to, and maybe that title match, you get to debut, I think, one of the most unheralded belts in WWF history, and that is the green belt, the green world title belt with all the plaques on it, the one that Hogan would hold for 6 months, and then you go to the other belt. I feel like that belt got totally disrespected because I think I always thought that was an awesome looking belt, and that was the belt, Dave, that they molded into what would be the belts on the LJN rubber guys that came out in 84 and 85. It's that belt they used. I remember very vividly. All right. 1984. Now, hear me out. I am gonna adjust history ever so slightly, Mr. Hall. Ever so slightly. So, of course, as 1984 begins, the previous month, Bob Backlund, of course, lost the WWF title to Sheiky Baby, the Iron Sheik. I would do this. In 1984, I would have Hulk Hogan not win the Royal Rumble. I would have Backlund win the Royal Rumble to give him one title shot with Sheik. Backlund loses. Hogan wins some kind of number one contenders thing down the line. And later in 80. All right, so we are changing history a little bit. I said we weren't, but we are. I lied. I think later in '84, Hogan does win the world title from Sheik, maybe in like August. But I think Backlund wins the Rumble. And I think the shocker, Dave, is that Backlund does not win it back. That, I think, is the shocker. I think everyone would have anticipated. But I think you have a big card in June. You have like a number one contenders thing between Hogan and some other heel, Dr. D. David Schultz or something. And you have Hogan win a number one contenders match. You have Backlund and Sheik in the world title match. The match, maybe Backlund, maybe you do maybe you do, Dave, like a Cheezoid SummerSlam 93 ending where Backlund wins by count out or something. The crowd goes home happy because they don't have a clue. And that's it and then that's it. Backlund kind of goes off to the sunset. Hogan wins the number one contenders match, and maybe in August at the Garden in a big epic summer show. Or you do it at Yankee Stadium, or you do it at Shea. You do a big epic outdoor show in the summertime, and that's when Hogan beats Sheik. That's my take. That's just, I am kind of playing around a little bit, but I think that would be fun for '84.
Look, I think it would. It's a massive change of history, and Sheik gets a near 6-month title reign there, which I think would have really surprised a lot of people.
Right.
I went for the easy out. I went for the Hogan win, and I went with the perspective of that the Rumble. We're at Madison Square Garden, and the Rumble is early in the card. And before the Rumble even happens, obviously they're announcing that the winner is going to get a shot next month at Madison Square Garden. And Freddie Blassie and the Iron Sheik come out and they say, we're not waiting. We were supposed to wrestle Bob Backlund. He's out hurt. The winner gets the shot tonight. And of course, you can have the commentators, the president, whoever say, well, that's not fair that wrestling twice in a night, that's not really fair. And Blassie goes, well, that's the way it is. If you don't do it, we're gonna take the title and we're gonna go back to Iran, and you'll never see the Iron Sheik again. And so Hogan wins the belt, and on the same night comes back out to win the world championship and launch Hulkamania as it is.
Okay, it's okay. I don't think that would upset me. I don't think that would upset anybody. I don't know. Is it sick of me, Dave, to want an extended Iron Sheik heel title run? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I think the build would be awesome. And listen, Dave, you still have that Sheik Slaughter boot camp match in June. It's just Slaughter doesn't care about the title. You can keep the stupid belt. I just want to destroy you. Backlund gets his shot, yada yada. I still want to kick the crap out of you. You could have Slaughter win the Rumble. That would be pretty great. But then Sheik would have to win the match, and nobody wants that. So
that's right.
Or you just move the boot camp match to maybe the fall, maybe like September or October. Once Sheik wants the belts off him, you could do that too. All right, we now officially enter the pay-per-view era, and so we will be doing 3 Rumbles quickly here: 85, 86, and 87. Before, of course, the actual Rumble started in 88. The 85 Rumble, to me, total cake. I have no problem ditching the tag match at the first WrestleMania. If you have another guy, Dave, I'd love to hear it, but I think it is an absolute gimme that the Hot Rod, Rowdy Roddy Piper, wins the 85 Rumble, and we have Hogan and Piper at WrestleMania.
Look,
I could go without the tag match. Love the tag match. Love Mr. T. Mr. T could be in Piper's corner. Orndorff could be in Mr. T could be in Hogan's corner. Orndorff could be in Piper's corner. That's fine. I think Piper wins a Rumble. And instead of having the match, you know what? You could probably still have the match at War to settle the score, I suppose.
That was how I was looking at. I agree. I've got Roddy winning. Roddy was the only option for me in 1985. In fact, when I started planning this, I just went straight to 85 and went Roddy Piper. And I think you would use it. He leverages that. He gets his title shot at War to settle the score, and then you just move into history as it is. I think it's just the perfect way to get him into that championship match, because he's been doing all the crap that he's been doing, and he's got the heat, and the whole rock and wrestling thing's been building anyway. To have him win that Rumble, I think would really solidify him as a threat to Hogan. Which
I mean,
was.
how about this? How about this? The referee's not looking. Orndorff comes in and helps Piper chuck guys out. I mean, Piper could totally
and Orton and
awesome.
Ace. And Ace.
Yeah, and Orton starts cracking guys with the cast, and they're throwing guys. He's just sitting there throwing guys out, and then the ref turns and Piper's in there by himself. I mean, it'd be amazing.
Would be good.
Oh my God. Oh, so great. So great. 1986. I am not making this a gimme. I am not giving King Kong Bundy the title shot. Sorry, not happening.
Yep.
You know who I'd give it to? Has he been? I don't think he's debuted in the company yet. Maybe he did. No, was he at WrestleMania 2? No. So he probably. I was gonna actually give it to Harley Race, but I don't think
he didn't come in till June.
Till June. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was trying to think WrestleMania 2. I'm like, no, he wasn't. Okay. So, well, this would be tough. Oh, well, you could do this. I had it written down, but then I was double talking myself. You could have the same scenario that I did 3 years earlier for Morocco, and you could have the Macho Man Randy Savage win the 86 Rumble. Then win the Intercontinental title.
Yes.
And then do the same thing he did with, we talked about earlier with Morocco in 83. And I could be the first guy in the history of this company to have both singles titles at once. And he could flaunt that for months. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I think that was one of the two options I had. Was Savage winning the belt and doing that very idea. Wins the title, then wins the IC title, and because he's already got the guaranteed title shot, he goes into his championship match at a house show at MSG, whether it be before or after WrestleMania, and he goes in with I'm going to come out with two titles. I think that would look really good. I wanted to avoid the Bundy idea as well. So Savage was one of my two. Trying to come up with an alternative. I think that the one that I landed on that would be maybe the most the one that I could accept the best, because really by the time you get to the beginning of 86, Hogan has really run the gamut of the best heels. Piper's on the way. He's moved out of the Hogan picture and he's heading elsewhere. Morocco's, while he gets the Saturday Night Main Event title match, he's really past his best at that point. You've got, other guys that aren't really at the, like Sheik and Volkov are no longer at that level. The one name I thought of that would be an acceptable Rumble winner might have been Big John Studd as a heel. With he and Bundy could have worked together earlier in the match, and maybe it's another way to build to the WrestleMania 2 Rumble. He comes out of that. Maybe Andre's not even in the Rumble, and Studd comes out going, I won the Royal Rumble. He gets a title match with Hogan. Hogan wins easy, and then then Studd starts actually using that as a taunt at Andre for the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal, and he goes into the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal with, well, I won the Royal Rumble recently, and I'm going to win the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal, and just use that, similar to what they did with Davey Boy Smith when he won the Battle Royal in England. They hyped that up big time in the 92 Rumble about how he won the Rumble at Royal Albert Hall and the Battle Royal at Royal Albert Hall, and he sort of talked about that. You could have Studd do that, and of course then Studd gets tossed as he does.
Right. Interesting. Okay. I like all those options. I think 86 is fun. A lot of good heels. And then finally, 1987. I mean, it's a gimme. I mean, we have to give it to Andre. Because we could use history here. This is even better, though, Dave. We could use history because Andre could be like, oh, Andre won the Rumble. And I'm not saying Hogan would take it for granted, but Andre could win the Rumble, and other baby faces would be like, yeah, don't worry about it. They're telling Hogan, don't worry about it. Andre's not gonna want to wrestle you. He doesn't wrestle his friends. And Hogan's like, I will respect any, like, you keep Hogan the baby face line, and I'm not gonna diss Andre. He wants to wrestle me, I'd be honored and privileged, and if he beat me, he earned it. But all the other baby faces, like the smart asses, like, nah, 6 years ago he bailed on a title, don't worry about it. And then we have the Piper's Pit, and out comes him and Bobby, and then we go on our way.
That's it. I think that's where the story builds. Andre wins the Rumble as a good guy. It's his first match back after the suspension.
Correct.
It's the only time anyone's seen him, so he gets cheered, he wins, and then the following week on Piper's Pit is when Jesse comes out, and Jesse is the one that plants those seeds, like he does. I hear Andre wants the shot. Oh, he'd never take the shot. He's a good. He and Hogan are friends, and you get Hogan here next week, I'll bring Andre, and it moves the way it does. Andre comes out with Bobby the next week, and everything can just go the way it does. But it just adds that credence of, well, he's earned the shot. He deserves the shot. Hogan, why would you be balking at the shot when Andre has earned it? And that could be part of Bobby's thing. You thought he wouldn't come for you, but he wants the shot. You've been ducking him, and you can't duck him anymore.
Yep. I agree. I love that. I love that. That's awesome. I agree 100% with how we do that. And Andre, I think it keeps Hogan a baby face. He's like, no, if Andre wants to wrestle me, I'd be honored. If he beats me, he's earned it, and he deserves to be one of the greatest world champions. But all the other smarty baby faces like, nah, Andre doesn't do that. He'll probably pass it off to some other guy, and then Andre, and then Hogan maybe gets a false sense of security and is like, all right, well, maybe he, and then he starts thinking, if Jesse's saying it, then I know Andre doesn't want the title shot.
That's it. Yeah.
If Jesse's saying it, we know that he's just blowing smoke.
And that'd be Vince and Bruno on commentary on Superstars. Oh, Jesse, we know when you say things like that, it never happens. And Jesse can be like, I always tell the truth, and you can trust everything that I say.
Yep, exactly. So there we go. There's our look back in an alternate universe if the Royal Rumble started back in the late 70s. So just to recap quickly, here are our Royal Rumble winners, Dave's and mine. And please comment on the Place to Be page. Who do you agree with these? Do you have anybody else you think would be a winner here? So 1977, Bruiser Brody. 78, Bob Backlund, of course. 79, High Chief Peter Maivia. 1980, Bruno. 81, Andre. 82, Jimmy Snuka. 83, Magnificent Morocco. 84, Bob Backlund. 85, so Backlund wins 2 Rumbles. 85, Roddy Piper. 86, Randy Savage. And 87, Andre again. So our next part here, part 2 of our show, we did this with War Games back in our, I guess it was our October episode. We did it with War Games. I think everyone knows where we're going with this. Dave, what are we going to spin on its head in our alternate universe?
Well, as you said, in October, we looked at the idea of what if War Games had been a Vince McMahon creation and not a Dusty Rhodes creation in WCW. Well, now we're going to flip the tables. What if Dusty Rhodes had created the Royal Rumble as a WCW event, held in January every year? And what if WCW was the owner of the Royal Rumble gimmick? So we're gonna jump to the other company, the other side of the tracks, and we're gonna have a look at some potential WCW Royal Rumble winners. And starting in '88 and going to pretty well the end of the company run, and we're probably not going to spend a great deal of time on some of these. Again, some of these. There are probably some gimmies out there. There are some other ones that I think are a bit more fun to talk about. But starting in 1988, because the Rumble started in '88, And we all know that, and WCW had a pay-per-view event in January of '88. It was the Bunkhouse Stampede, which was absolutely atrocious and one of the worst events in the history of all-time wrestling. But
dreadful.
what if it wasn't the Bunkhouse Stampede? What if it was the Royal Rumble? And I think '88. Look, if Dusty's created it and Dusty's booking, I think Dusty's winning in '88. That was just the straight out. I can't see Dusty. I mean, Dusty booked himself to win the Bunkhouse Stampede. Dusty booked himself to win War Games. Dusty booked himself to be world champion at times. You know, '88, the title doesn't have to be on the line. I think you just start as what it was in the WWF, just as a match and as a prestigious thing, and Dusty wins. That was my view for the first one.
Yeah. The other one I could have had, although I guess he was still a heel, and Flair was champion. I wanted to give it to, if you wanted to break up. Oh, I have one, because he's a heel he's a babyface to start the year. You said Dusty, right?
Yeah.
I like the Dusty idea. The other guy I like, even though he'd end up being a heel later in the year, I kind of like Barry Windham.
Yeah, that's a good option as well. And as I said, because in '88, because the WWF didn't start the title shots until '93, and obviously because they had the winner in '92 win the belt, it's feasible then in sort of in the late '80s, the first couple of Rumbles, there might not have been a title shot on the line. So Barry Windham winning it would have been totally, and even then Barry would have been a challenger for Ric Flair anyway. So you've got that time period of I think Barry Windham as a winner would have actually been a very good one. Or, you know, maybe you could have had, you know, and, you know, that's where, you know, you could even plant some seeds. Maybe Dusty eliminates Barry as the last person. And while Barry shakes his hand, some of that resentment sits for later in the year and is part of the catalyst for the Horseman turn.
That is, yeah, I think so. That's not a bad thinking as well. So, okay. 1989, if we're going by this path, I think this is a gimme since it happened in real life anyway. I think it would probably be Ricky Steamboat. He wins that match in January, and then the following month at Chi-Town Rumble, he beats Flair to win the title. Another frustrating thing, because everyone could say Ricky Steamboat never won the Royal Rumble in the WWF. He could come here and win the Royal Rumble here as well. So,
and probably is that surprise, you know, we've got, you know, I don't know. I mean, '89, I don't know if WCW had the roster to do a 30-man Rumble. It might have still been a 20-man Rumble at the time. But you could sort of picture it being, well, we know who 19 or 20, we know who all but one is. There's a mystery competitor. Eddie Gilbert has got someone that he's put in, but we don't know who it is.
Right. Yep.
And Ricky comes out as the shock, as the totally unexpected, which would benefit. That like you said, it's a gimme. The only other thought I had for an '89 winner, just a little bit off the cuff, and someone who I think would certainly benefit and could have a title shot somewhere, but it mucks up the Ricky Steamboat storyline a little bit, could be Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner was on a massive roll in late '88, and if you listen to some of the Dirt Sheet podcasts, you know, it was sort of the thought was that when Dusty was being kicked out as Booker, and they didn't want to, you know, they were talking about not wanting Luger to win it at Starrcade. One of the potential storylines that got thrown around was putting Rick Steiner in the match and having Rick Steiner win. So it wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibility for Steiner to have been viewed as a potential winner in '89.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Sure, why not? Again, WCW in that stretch, they weren't, you know, they were a little more like footloose and fancy free with booking. Like nothing had to totally make sense. Fans kind of went with it anyway, so I don't mind that. I like that. 1990.
Let me start this one off because
Sure,
I took that line because I thought it would be too easy in 1990 to give it to Sting. Too easy.
All right, I gave it Sting, so you're right.
I want to hold Sting off.
Okay.
It'd be too easy to give it to Sting, and you could probably even do partly what they did with maybe Sting gets attacked and injures his knee. Like this is where he gets like maybe the Horsemen attack him and keep him out of the Rumble. This is where the Horsemen turn on him and attack him so he can't even compete in the Rumble.
Okay.
A person who I would have liked to have seen win the Rumble and I think really would have benefited a lot and probably rehabbed his character a little bit, the Great Muta. Muta coming out of Starrcade had been absolutely ripped because of having him lose 3 matches and having been unbeaten before then. What a great way to have Muta get a bit of a rebuild and get a shot at Flair. And that would have been a better thing than Luger again. Giving Muta a shot. I think it might have kept him in the company because the story is that they wanted to turn Muta babyface and Gary Hart basically convinced Muta it wouldn't be a good idea, and then Muta bolted, went back to Japan. He left early and went back to Japan. But if they'd given Muta a Rumble win, you could parlay that into a title shot against Flair, and I think that would have been a fantastic match.
Yeah, of course it would have. Absolutely. Muta in his prime, Flair, for the most part, still in his prime. Oh, hell yeah. I'll pay for that in a heartbeat. But right now, of course, Dave, I'm very pro Muta because obviously, as everyone knows, if you listen to Main Event and you pay attention to wrestling, Muta is retiring. He wrestled his last New Japan match at Wrestle Kingdom, and he's wrestling again. His actual last match is sometime next month in February. I don't know what it is. It must be Noah or something. But so right now I wax very nostalgic for Muta. So you know what? I just changed our master list. You win. Sting was too easy. Sting was too easy. You're absolutely right. Sting was too easy. Yeah. 1991. Guess what? I just switched up mine because we're thinking of who the champion is, and 19 to 91 was Flair champion? Yeah,
Flair had just regained the title from Sting in 91, and this was just a few months before he left.
Right. So since he and Flair had those issues bouncing the belt back and forth in 91, I'm going to steal an idea from your playbook. You had Muta winning the Rumble in 90. I'm going to have Tatsumi Fujinami win the Rumble in 91.
Ooh.
And then he beats Flair at Super Brawl or whatever pay-per-view they want, and they do the whole New Japan bounce around. I like that idea. See, that's the one thing I'm enjoying about the Rumble, about a Rumble idea in WCW, Dave, is that, they were a little, and let's be honest, love you, Vince, for that time, but you were a little close-minded. WCW wouldn't have any problem throwing anybody in there to win these matches, and I think the fans would dig it. So I think Fujinami winning in 91 sets up him and Flair at that, because they're trying to do that cross-promoting for that New Japan show, and I think this is a perfect setup for it. So I don't know who you had, but I totally stole your Muta idea and just changed mine. I had Luger, and I'm like, I don't want Luger winning anything.
Well, that's who I had in 91. I went with Luger. Well, I went with the idea that after he lost at Starrcade 88, the storyline was supposed to be Luger never got another shot.
Right.
And if we've got the storyline where Muta wins in 90, then Luger's not getting title shots in 90. Luger, we get into 91. If Luger wins the match, he's getting he's earned a title shot. Then you could still have the whole Fujinami thing happen in Japan. And so the Super Raw match becomes, well, no, we've got a held up title and we've got a rematch between Flair and Fujinami. And Luger, you now need to wait until Great American Bash for your title shot. And then, of course, we all know what happens. Flair bails. Luger ends up winning the title at Bash 91 and you move from there. But I thought it'd be a good way to get Luger back into to earn that shot that everyone has said, well, you're not allowed to have one now.
Man, Dave, I thought I could figure you out. I'm like, nah, he's not going to want Luger to win in 91. I'm going to put Fujinami, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you always make sense. So I was kind of thinking that they think outside the box on that. That's okay. All right, 92. Now we got to think. I try to remember who's champions going into years.
92. This was to me. This was the biggest gimme of the lot because Luger was champion in 92, going into 92, and he was on his way out of the company. I would think if we've got the Rumble, we don't have the Battle Bowl at Starrcade, and I would put Sting over here. This is where I have Sting winning to prepare to get the match against Luger at Super Brawl.
Yeah. I actually had, forgetting that Flair was Luger was leaving and that Luger was a heel, I had actually put Vader here, but I realized that didn't really make any sense at the moment. So I ditched that and I put Sting too. Yeah. I agree with you. Sting is a much better choice here in 92 because he's with Flair gone and then Luger leaving. Sting at the moment is pretty much the face of the company.
Yeah.
So this after that, Flair's gone, Luger's not here. He is the face of WCW right now. So that's what you got to do. And then you got the awesome tags with the Steiners and the Miracle Violence connection. And I love 92 WCW. I love 92 WCW. All right. So we got that. Sting's, that's a cake one. 93. So at the
Vader
end of
was champion at the beginning of 93.
Right.
He won
Flair,
it back from Ron Simmons just before, just in late December.
Right. No, we cannot pick Flair because we're going to go by kind of the real life rule.
Oh, he's not back yet.
Flair was still in WWF, and Flair had a no compete.
That's right.
So Flair couldn't wrestle until June. So, or whatever it was, May or whatever, 60 days, 90 days, I don't know what it was. So, no, Flair cannot win the Rumble in 93. Besides, he won the WWF Rumble in 92. So I put, and I'm not sure when he's in. You're going to have to help me with this one, Dave, if you know, because I put this guy's name down, but I'm not sure if he was able to wrestle yet. I put Sid.
I don't think Sid came back until much later in the year.
All right.
Yeah, he didn't really turn up until sort of around just before Bash at the Beach.
Okay, so all right.
So I looked at what was happening in early 93, and one little fun one jumped out at me, which he ended up feuding with Vader later in the year, but his face turn happened in January, and that's Cactus Jack. And I thought that could be a fun way to solidify a face turn and maybe get an early jump start on what the Vader feud ended up being. Because he could have his world title match coming out of the Rumble, and that's where he gets powerbombed on the concrete.
Oh, look at that. I like that. Yeah. I'm going with that. That's a good one, Dave. And he wins crazy, and he throws he could do something crazy, eliminate the last guy. He goes out with him, and then he standing on his face because his foot doesn't want to touch the floor, so he's standing on the guy's face. I mean, that would be awesome. Or stand on his nuts or something like that. Would be hilarious. Yeah, I like that. All right, I'll put that down. That's official. I'm not changing that. I like that one. Cactus Jack, because poor Foley never won a WWF Rumble. No. Cactus Jack wins the 1993 WCW Royal Rumble. I'm sure they'll come up with another name. I have a feeling Royal Rumble's not a WCW. We have to come up, by the time we go off the air, Dave, we got to think of what WCW would name this match, because I feel like they wouldn't call it the Royal Rumble. I feel like they call it something stupid. So
if it was Dusty in 88, do we go the Bunkhouse Rumble? Oh.
The Bunkhouse. God. That would be dreadful. But it makes sense with them. All right, 1994. I got a fun one here, Dave.
Yep.
So Flair is champion.
Yep, just beat Vader at Starrcade.
He's a babyface.
Yep.
How about this? I know they feud in 95, but this would be fun. His best friend at the time, or is he, AA Arn Anderson.
Ooh. I like that.
You know?
I like that a lot.
You know? I think that'd be very interesting because Flair is a babyface. He doesn't really turn heel till the whole Hogan thing's announced. They kind of force him a heel because somebody's got a job to Hogan. Uh, um, but
the only issue. Sorry, finish. I'll let you finish.
No, I was just finishing that sentence. That would be. I'm trying to think of what Arn was at that moment, which you're probably about to help me answer.
That's what I was going to say. The only issue was Arn was recovering from stab wounds.
Oh, that's fucking Sid. Thanks for ruining my Rumble. Stupid Sid, you idiot.
Maybe it's Arn's big return. Maybe it's Arn's big return to the company. Because when did he come back? I'm gonna you continue with your storyline for a minute. I'm gonna have a quick look at when Arn made his return.
Yeah, because he was wrestling because in spring of '94, him and because it's in my top 10 WCW matches of all time. I had the Arn Regal TV title match, which I think was April, if I remember correctly. So, and I'm thinking, were these stab wounds that bad? Like, I'm trying to think. How long did? Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so here we go. So he wrestled. So we're looking at 93 to 94. So I'm just looking at cage match at the moment. So his last match, I'm just getting my years right. So we're looking at 94. Oh, well, actually, maybe I've got my timeline wrong. 93, 94. Because according to Cage Match, he was wrestling in January, and yeah, he was back. He came back right at the end of December, and he's wrestling through January. So just a few matches here and there, mainly TV tapings, and then he was back on the road full time pretty well at the beginning of February. So it would work. You could use it as his return to the company. He makes the big return and comes out and wins. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay. All right, good. Then I feel better about it now. Thank you. I feel better about that now. All right, 1995. All right, now we get a run here because just like the 80s. So Hogan's a champion. We got that god-awful crap match with Beefcake at Starrcade 94. Like to expunge from every other universe. Maybe have Vader win this one?
That was one option. Yeah, that was. I had two names. One was the easy option, Vader, to go into their series, and Vader sort of absolutely dominating and destroying everyone to really sort of set him up as remind everyone that he's that unbeatable heel. Yeah, the other one I threw out for a bit of fun. This is just a fun. Vader's my pick, but the other one I threw out for fun. Only to hark back to, they feuded in the WWF, and everyone wants to. WCW seem to like to go back to these Hogan histories. Paul Orndorff was in his tag run with Paul Roma at the time.
That's right, pretty wonderful. Yep.
I just thought, how funny would it have been to have Orndorff win and sort of they have a match he gets a title shot at Hogan in WCW, which. I mean, he never had, and it was well beyond him. But I thought that was a bit of fun, just to throw that out there. But no, I think Vader's the way to go.
Yeah. 1996, let's see. Giant was the champion.
No, Savage was the champion.
Oh, Savage was the champion. That's right. Giant had won it at Halloween Havoc, so Savage is the champ. So I had Flair, and that probably makes sense at that moment.
I put the Giant. I put the Giant in there to get a shot at regaining the title.
Okay, so I'll put 2 for that then. All right, so I like Flair, but okay, so the Giant. Okay.
I think either one of those would work. I mean, they really. I mean, in the space of the next few months, they both win the title anyway. So right. It's no. I don't think it matters which way you go there.
1997. Now, this one's fun, and this may go kind of into our possible February topic. So we have the match. Maybe they do it at Sold Out. How about this? They do a gimme throwaway crap rumble, like not crap. At Sold Out, they do like a joke rumble. We'll put a bunch of our stooges in there, so Hogan doesn't have to wrestle anybody. And the last guy that comes out is Sting. Now, everybody thinks it'll be a guy in a mask. They'll pretend it's the fake Sting. What's his name? Steve Farmer, whatever the hell his name is. And he, the WCW guys, are like thrown out and everything. And you have Sting pull the mask off and be the winner. And then he dangles that title shot over Hogan's head for the entire year until you get to Starrcade.
Look, that'd be an interesting way to do it. I think dangling the title shot, it certainly would work, would fit from a who Sting was position, and but having him dangle the title shot over for so long, sort of, it makes that build a little bit harder, because that part of the enjoyment of the build was, well, is Sting ever going to get in there? Although I guess, he's got this title shot. When's he gonna use it? It would certainly have Hogan worried it all the time, especially if you did almost a Money in the Bank style. He can choose any event, any time. Like maybe not a cash in on the night, but certainly he can choose the time anytime he wants that shot. I went with something a little bit different in 97. I went with something a little out there. I was just looking at, well, what have we got? 97, you got Sting was sort of sidelined. Luger had already had that little brief run. I thought there was a guy who just come back from injury, who always been touted as a future world champ. And I wondered what it might have been like for him to have a shot as a babyface in 97 before his heel turn, and that's Scotty Steiner.
Okay.
Because the Steiner brothers were very much at the forefront of the battle with the NWO, and why they mainly did their tags, it was always, WCW always held that thing that Rick and Scott Steiner, they were tag wrestlers, but they were, if they wanted to go singles, they could win any title they wanted. That was always the way they were presented in the company. So I sort of thought Scotty Steiner returning from injury, that could be a good way to give him a shot. Just someone different for Hogan to face rather than just another Savage or another Giant or another whatever, and just continue to hold off the Sting thing.
Okay. That's a good secondary. I like that. All right, I'm going to put that with yours because I'm going to put that next to my choice. So Sting and Scott Steiner. Okay, 1998. 1998. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
I was going to say 98 for me it's a gimme. Not that they ever would have used it in the right way, but the fact is he'd just come into the company. Everything that had happened, we've talked about this guy multiple times on this show. Bret Hart.
I actually did not do Bret Hart. I actually took one because I think this guy would be good to win it. Whether he won the title or not was probably not going to fly. I put Chris Jericho.
Oh, that would have been an interesting win. It's a little, but Jericho really sort of rose. His real rise up the card happened a few months later as the cruiserweight champion, sort of April, May, June of 98 is when he really launched up the card. I feel in January 98 he was still seen as a bit of an underneath guy.
Okay. Maybe I pushed it because I didn't have anywhere to put him for the next three, so I figured this was a good spot for him. But I could see your point. So who did you have? Yeah,
I had Bret Hart because
Bret.
I thought that's the way you build on his arrival in the company, and
you know what?
The whole man, the guy never lost in WWF.
You're totally right. I'm putting Bret. Totally smart. Good call. 1999. Maybe you put Jericho here, I guess, but I put DDP.
Yeah, I had DDP as well.
Yeah. 2000. I kind of used real life. You may have a better one. I put Benoit.
So I looked at 2000 and I went, the title was held up in that January time period. They had the Benoit Sid match. I thought Benoit, but then my personal opinions and biases jump in, and I just can't book Chris Benoit to win anything anymore because of what happened. So I'm putting Sid over. I'm giving Sid the title.
Okay. No, you know what?
I was on. I think we're on the same wavelength. You just take that 2000 match because the company was in chaos. So really, Goldberg's out hurt, Hart's out hurt, Nash is out hurt, everyone's out hurt. Sid Benoit was in where they end up having to go for a title run. It really makes sense that one of those two is going to win the belt.
You know what? Honestly, Dave, if Dr. G was on with us right now, he would totally agree with you. He wouldn't give the guy anything anymore. So you're right. And then the last one, 2001, Steiner was champion, if I remember correctly, right?
That's right.
And I think this is probably a gimme, but maybe not, because I like that you and I are not agreeing on everything. That's good. That's what we like. I put Booker T.
I went with Goldberg. I felt that Goldberg hasn't won it. Even at his peak, he hasn't won it. 2001, it wasn't long after. 2001 was when they were doing the whole Scott Steiner started retiring guys for a short period of time.
Right.
And I would have thought maybe like what they could have done is had Goldberg win because Goldberg also lost a loser has to retire match as well. And I thought that you could have Goldberg win and then he goes in and he loses to Steiner in that loser must retire. With the idea being he'd go away for a while and then they bring him back. Like that was the plan, to bring him back and have him go over as champion. So I thought that would have been a way you could have started that storyline with Scotty Steiner.
Right. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. And by 2001.
But Booker T would be just as acceptable.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, by 2001, Lord only knows what the hell was going on. So maybe in another episode, Dave, we'll see. What if TNA had the Rumble? No, we won't do that. Actually, we could. Do TNA with the Rumble. Let's remember that. We'll do that in January of 2024. We'll do ROH and Impact Rumbles. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show this month, everybody. There was a fun look at what would happen with different Rumbles. Please go to our Place to Be Facebook page where we hang out. Dave hangs out. I hang out. When you listen to the show, give us your thinking. Were we right? Were we wrong? Were there other guys you think in that time period that might have been good winners to advance them? We'd love to hear your opinions. Dave, quickly, where can everyone find you?
As always, everyone can find me lurking the Facebook pages. Dave Hall, you'll see me through the Place to Be chats and the Place to Be pages. So drop me a line. Feel free to send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. You can also hear me now. Also, the other podcast I'm a part of now is over on the North South Connection. You can hear me as part of the Chronoso monthly podcast where we're looking at the 87 time period we're currently in. We've just dropped the Saturday night's main events, and WrestleMania 3 is going to be the next one that drops. So, awesome. Yeah, feel free to check us out over there.
Yes. Love Dave's awesome. Dave, you're the best. And of course, check out the Quadapods, the PTB Wrestling Network, the NoSo, the PTB Pop Experience, and of course, the Jenny Position, which is part of the NoSo. Thank you very much, everyone. You can follow me on Twitter at Scott C. Podfather. Please follow the brand on Twitter at PTBN Wrestling. We post the pods, we post polls, opinions, all sorts of fun stuff. Join us next month in February. We're not going to tell you the topic, but we mentioned the guy we're going to talk about many times tonight. So we'll give you that. Right. We'll leave it at that. So we're going to do Valentine's Day. No, we're not doing Valentine's Day. But we are Valentine's Day. What would have been a good WCW Valentine's Day massacre? No. All right. So everybody have a wonderful rest of January. Enjoy the real Royal Rumble, which will, if you're listening to this when the show drops, in a week and a half down in San Antonio. We will talk to you in February through the Looking Glass.